Welcome to the Richmond Leadership Lab, featuring business and nonprofit leaders across Richmond, Virginia. Produced and hosted by Filmspire and Ben X.
Welcome to the 5th episode. It's already been 5.
I've already lost count. 5.
I can't count much higher. At this point, we're 2 figures.
Neither can I.
We're 2 heads. I'm your co-host, Christian Mosier, with Taylor Quinn, and we are so excited to bring to you today Meghan Freeman of Abundant Life Partners.
Thank you.
Meghan, thank you so much
for
being on the
show. An honor to be here, number 5.
It's an honor to have you. I feel like the guests just keep getting better and better.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I don't
no pressure now. I know, seriously.
My kids watch this and they're like, you're going to be on the one with the hotel guy. So I think they think the hotel guy's way cooler than I am. But
yeah, Robbie's such a great guy. Oh my
Shout
God.
out.
We really enjoyed our episode with him. And I always joke with him, like, so the game's like Monopoly. You just hotel here, hotel. No.
Yeah. They probably think that's a little more entertaining, but that's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are they involved with what you do? Like, do they know? I guess they know what you do.
A little bit. I'm trying to. My pro tip I learned was to expose them by making them listen to podcasts and educational books while we drive around town to different sporting events. So, I'll listen to fear of failure, things like that on the way to a baseball game, just kind of get them thinking. So,
That's cool.
But a lot of it's confidential, but I kind of hope that they're exposed a little bit to the ups and downs and at least just seeing kind of how we, all the different ways that you can make a living.
Yeah, and the failure aspect.
Yeah.
So I
the
love
failure. Yes.
We're
big on failure in our family. Yes.
Before.
That's how we run.
Have a good at bad.
Yes. 100%.
Hey, 30%.
30%, you're doing well. So a lot of failure.
Yeah,
That's
even
great.
lower in business sometimes.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, Meghan, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. This is, our first time kind of meeting, obviously. So for the show, for the Richmond Leadership Lab, we would love bringing on CEOs and owners like yourself, talk about your story, talk about leadership, what that means to you and things like that, especially being a business owner. So, but first, we'd really love to kind of hear your story a little bit. Or first, why don't you tell us about Abundant Life Partners? Tell us about Abundant Life Partners, and then we'll kind of get into your story. So give us the quick elevator pitch, if you will.
All right. Well, pretty simple. Abundant Life Partners provides outpatient mental health counseling and medication management to children, families, couples, adults all across Virginia. We can do virtually. We also have offices in Williamsburg and also in Henrico. So we started with just me providing counseling myself in Williamsburg after hours in my former supervisor's office. And then just slowly I met different people who were amazing counselors and found spaces for them to do counseling. So that is what we do. We are a generalist practice, but we have specialists within. So pretty much most issues we can find someone to help, if not within the practice, without. So.
Now, I'm curious, if you meet someone at a party or something like that, and they're like, "What do you do?" Then they talk, and then you go, "I'm a therapist. I'm a counselor." Yeah. Do you kind of get weird feedback or reactions?
There's a reason that people keep telling me I have a 15-passenger van for all my children. People keep telling me I should get it wrapped. I do not get it wrapped for that for specific reason.
Oh, with the Abundant Life.
I do not need it. But usually I'll say I kind of go different ways because I'm an LCSW, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker. That I don't know if that's the way to go. I'm like, don't want to say I'm a social worker. I don't know, that is its own connotation. So and then you say therapist and they start telling you about their, physical therapy, massage therapy. So it goes all different ways. But
I have this ankle problem.
Cannot help you with that.
So, that's amazing.
But we do tend to get asked a lot for referrals, I think. So.
Interesting. Yeah. I just think I could imagine just that funny interaction, engagement, and things like that.
Yes.
Would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit of your story, your background for a couple minutes? How did you get into wanting to do therapy and counseling and things like that? Just kind of give us the quick background on yourself, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so just outside of Los Angeles. I graduated from Harvard Westlake in North Hollywood. And even many years ago, it was very normal to have therapists growing up. So I had amazing therapists when I was growing up, getting through life. So I kind of a weird type of person that always knew kind of what I wanted to do. And so even as young as middle school and high school, I just saw this therapist who was a mom, and I was like, I think I want to do that. So knew I wanted to go into the counseling field, and then kind of weird change, but came all the way to Washington and Lee from Los Angeles to go to college.
How did you know that?
Yes, yes. So it was special. I still remember. I was just thinking about this. I came
Why'd you go to Washington and Lee?
I think through counseling, actually, and through my experience with kind of getting to know myself, I knew myself, and I was like, I know that I will thrive in a small environment that's
in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle, I wanted to experience something totally different. This was shortly after 9/11. I'd been listening to a lot of country music. I kind of wanted to find cowboys or something like that. So I knew I couldn't be cold because that would not be good for my mental health. So so I started at Georgetown and drove down to Duke and just stopped at every school and found Washington and Lee. Had never heard of it, but it is gorgeous. If anyone's been to Lexington, it is beautiful. And I just felt like they have the honor tradition, speaking tradition. It's a place where I knew if I was going to go that far away from my family, I needed to be known and recognized. If I, disappeared and failed to show up to class, I needed someone to notice that. Right. Since I knew nobody in Lexington, Virginia. And it was funny, too, because I had actually toured William and Mary, and I was like, oh, Williamsburg, that's a touristy town. Then go to Lexington. Like, there was nothing at that time. Yeah. But I loved it. It was just an amazing experience. I assumed that I was going to go get a PhD in clinical psychology. Just where I come from, you just get the highest degree possible in your field, even if a master's could be a terminal degree. I was like, I got to get a PhD. And so I was going to go get a PhD in clinical psychology. And then I met my husband. And so basically, it's kind of a joke, but I walked across to Cross Limits Gates to VMI with one of my friends from WNL. It was kind of as a joke. We were like, I wonder what's going on over there. And so we went to the church there because at the time I was new to faith, but definitely not ready for Lexington. I had no pearls, no Lily Pulitzer. Yeah. I was not prepared for Lexington church life. So I was
Bless her heart.
It was, I was like, what is going on with all these guys in pastels? Like, women, and why are these girls wearing their grandmother's, floral things? And, I was a fish out of water for sure. But went over to VMI, and they had an amazing chapel in Chap Park, was phenomenal. And I just kept going to their services there and met my husband, and he proposed, and we got married the day after I graduated college. So, and he had a career that was picked for him. He was ROTC, Marine Corps option. So we knew he would have no flexibility, so I had to have the flexibility. So, So
the change between LA and Lexington, Virginia.
Yes.
I mean, it couldn't almost be more vast.
It was very vast. Yes. It was, and it's funny because now in retrospect, I think I was somewhat oblivious. I remember showing up to my first day. I still remember.
What did you think your first day?
I mean, I thought I was so cool. I was wearing this like pinstripe miniskirt, a Batman shirt, and Converse Chucks that were tie-dye, orange tie-dye. I still remember the outfit.
If you're listening, that's what she's wearing today.
Absolutely. I've tried to refine myself a little bit here to fit into the Richmond community. But so it was different, but I also knew I wanted to be of service, and that was a kind of community where you can get involved quickly. So I just was in everything from the time I got there. And it was.
And when you guys moved to you're in Williamsburg right now?
Yes. So we originally were living up in Quantico. So we honeymooned in Quantico for the Marine Corps. And then the Marine Corps brought us back to California. So we were in San Diego for a while. And then my husband got orders back to Virginia. They told him either Chesapeake, Yorktown, or Norfolk, which, if you know, are not co-located at all. So we were living in Hampton for a while. And then, but we had the nerve to take the first grandchild with us. And so my parents moved to follow her. I moved across the country for college. There was not such a concern. But when I took Remington with me, they came. And so so we ended up settling there, and then thinking it was just going to be for about 3 years, and then you move every 3 years with the Marine Corps. And then Tyler decided he was going to become a dentist, which was a 7-year journey. So we ended up kind of sticking around longer than we anticipated.
Yeah. And you all are really growing a big presence in Richmond.
Yes.
Your COO,
yes.
Chelsea's here.
So Chelsea, yes.
You guys
Chelsea,
have like 40 different office locations.
So we grew,
And
we were just talking about this. One of the great pieces of advice I got was that places or locations are a lot easier to find than great people. So we grew really conservatively. It's a kind of a weird model where we have about 6 locations within Williamsburg, and then we just keep adding office spaces within the same office building in Richmond because we just wanted to grow conservatively. I didn't want to be in a position where I had a big lease, and then we're service providers. So really the only way to add is to just add service providers, but we wanted to be able to be selective about who we were hiring and not have that weight of a lease. So we have a lot of little leases that I try to manage.
That's great.
Yeah. So you're like a commercial broker.
Yes,
Yeah.
basically. Yes.
What do you think makes your practice different than other counseling centers and things like that? What elements do you think you bring to the table that are unique?
Yeah. And I think that has changed a little bit over time. So it's like when you first start, I'd say what you bring is kind of yourself, because if it was just me doing the counseling, my specialization was eating disorders. And so that was kind of what I brought. As we've grown, what I would like to think is that we really bring innovation to the counseling field. Counselors by nature are not educated in business at all. I did not think I was not educated in business at all. I very happily majored in psychology and philosophy and walked right by the business school at W&L every single day and said, who needs to go there?
Right.
And until I took one business ethics course,
business
it's like, who needs that? But I think a lot of us kind of have that attitude of really trying to divide business from the helping professions. And so my passion is really leveraging what's great about the business world and the efficiencies and things like that to make mental health care accessible. So in the past couple of years, we were one of the first to bring a CRM to the mental health world. For you business people are kind of like, how were you getting clients without a CRM? Like, we were answering the phone and putting them in spreadsheets. How else? But what I kept hearing is everyone says, oh, there's no providers. There's no providers. There are providers and there are clients. They just don't know how to find each other well. So there's just kind of things that I've learned from other businesses and some of the technology to try to figure out how can we make mental health care more accessible. So that's kind of one aspect. I think the other thing from an employee standpoint, my passion and kind of going through my story, I was a stay-at-home mom. I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom as a military spouse working.
I can't ever imagine you
completely,
as a stay-at-home mom.
which is hilarious because that was me. My poor husband, that was kind of what he was sold. But he is a champ and, has kind of rolled with it. But that was what I thought, I was going to do. When I graduated with my master's, I got pregnant, right away. So I graduated pregnant and I thought, I'm going to stay home with my daughter. My husband was actually deployed at the time when I had her. And so thought, how could I possibly work and moving every 3 years? So I was really involved with like moms of preschoolers which is now Momco, in the churches and leading a stroller running club and things like that. And I had this thought that there's all these really educated women that are in these organizations that want to be great moms, but they also have a great education. And that was kind of what was weighing on me was I had this great education. My parents really invested in that. And I had a way to help people, but I wasn't able to do it. And so I thought if I can create an environment where it can be flexible and supportive of moms, because now we do have men as well, but primarily our field is very primarily female. So if we can create an environment where they can work and it can be a value added to their family versus a competition within the home, then they'll probably want to work with us. And so that's really our model is a lot built around flexibility.
And so you all have two different visions. Almost like an employee vision, who you're going to be, and then like outward facing, who we want to help.
Exactly. And it's hard, I think, in my mind, because I flip back and forth, but with the size we are now, we have around 65 employees. My brain is a lot more on the supporting the therapists so they can support their clients. But we say our mission is to make abundant life accessible. And to me, that means both for the clients, but also for the therapists and their families, because we're in a profession of helping families and helping people, and if our people are being negatively impacted by the work environment, then we're at kind of a net. It's like maybe they're helping people, but then their lives are getting worse. Like there's no net gain there.
It's not.
So
it's kind of a net negative.
It really is. It really is. And so, so that's kind of awesome. The two visions there.
And so Abundant Life Partners, I imagine, looks vastly different today.
Yes.
Than it did when there was a single.
It does.
Shingle.
However, interestingly, I don't know if this was just aggressive or really poor marketing. I named us Abundant Life Partners when it was just me. So I was.
I think it's great marketing.
I didn't know what I was going to do or where it was going to go or really anything about what was happening. I had no business plan or vision, but I was in a spin class and I was like, what do I name this practice? Because I need to create an LLC. And so I thought, what can we offer? Abundant Life is basically all we're promised because this world is hard and we can't cure hard. But if we can help people live a life to the full while they're here in the midst of suffering, then that's what we can offer. Yeah. And then I had the thought, like, it is kind of in the top of the, AB. Maybe it'll come up on the top of referral list. So that was my thought. Yeah. And then I said partners because we're doing counseling, but I do have a holistic vision of being a social worker. I kind of think holistically about how we help people. Yeah. So I thought we'll partner with people.
Yeah. And when did you start officially, like Abundant Life Partners?
February 2017. So it was, I was working.
Decade's coming up. What are we doing for
It
decade?
is. I don't know. I have to figure that out.
Gotta start planning it.
It's funny.
He's gonna come up on a decade.
Yeah, I'm close. Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah. We started the year. I'd been working overnights at a hospital, and then we got pregnant with a fourth child, and I was like, I can't work overnights at a hospital. Yeah. So started practice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll be right back after this short message.
Are employee benefits a headache for your company? At BenX, we simplify benefits so you can focus on growing your business. From custom benefit solutions to cutting-edge technology, we make it easy for companies to take care of their teams. Visit benxconsulting.com to see how we can simplify benefits for your growing company.
Your story is powerful, but is it reaching the right audience? At FilmSpire, we create compelling videos and provide marketing strategies to make sure they drive real results. From crafting your message to amplifying it, we help you connect with your audience like never before. Ready to inspire? Let's tell your story. And now, back to the show. I'm curious you brought up a good point that now you're spending most of your time thinking about your employees and things like that. So we've got a couple questions about that and things like that, and maybe things you've learned for like leadership and things like that. But is there like a particular leadership lesson that you feel like you've learned or one that stands out recently for you that's really shaped you, maybe transitioning out of from being that I'm the counselor to now I'm the kind of owner? Anything that stands out as a lesson you've learned about in leadership regarding that?
Yeah, I think the importance of transparency and communication has been big. So working with, I know you had Mindy on, Kim with Inspiring HR has been really helpful in really helping me think through how to help employees see themselves as like the continuum, the full life cycle of an employee, because it's like you sometimes hire people but there's not really a plan or a vision for them. So, and I'm maybe comfortable with just jumping into something and being like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a visionary. I don't know what's happening next week. I've got 10,000 ideas and we can go any direction and I don't care. But employees may like to know kind of what's coming, what's the next step. So figuring out, that's been a big focus for us this year. I think everyone in the service industry, compensation is a big concern, but with that going, what's like the growth opportunities for employees within the company and then communicating that clearly. So that's been something I've worked on a lot this year.
Great.
And almost like role clarity, like what you're going to do specifically.
Exactly. And it's, so that has been job description. She hammered it in. Yeah. I thought that this is another lesson. Details matter. I'm not a detail-oriented person. That's why chemistry didn't work out for me. But I just, I'm kind of a 70% solution. Let's roll. But details, things like a job description, which I was, So,
how much does this matter?
It doesn't matter.
And also expectations for employees, right? Like that's because they also want to know, like, am I hitting the right? Am I doing a good job in relation to these measures?
Yes, and that's been, I think, a big shift for me, and I'm still not good at it, but I hired Chelsea, who's great at it, is clear as kind. And so I tend to be very heavy on grace, and I don't want to put expectations on people. I love you. No matter what, you're doing great. That's why I took myself out of hiring. Unconditional positive regard is what we learn as therapists, and I truly have it for people. However, when you are hiring, having unconditional positive regard for everyone you interview is not does not lead to the best hires. So having clarity about roles and then providing that clarity, so really honing our hiring process as well, to be able to be confident and say, this is what we have to offer, and it might not be the best fit for you or for us, and that's absolutely okay. And so, that's been really helpul.
Yeah. So have people like Chelsea on your team.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you look for in a hire? We talked about how it's easier to find, real estate or apartments for whatever, building space, but like harder to find good employees. So what is it? What are the qualifications you look for a great hire?
So values are key. We do run on EOS. I know some of your former employees or some of your former interviewees have as well. So, but even that was the first thing we self-implemented on our own. And that was already, I think, just kind of ingrained, just not maybe verbalized as well as it could have been. So we start with core values and making sure there's a core values alignment. And Chelsea's great when she does her interviews. She goes through all the core values from the beginning. We have been told at times that it's weird, and we're cool with that. We're like, I guess it is weird, but culture is so important because we are well aware that people can do what we do in any other environment, and culture is key. So core values is first, and then for our clinical team, we've really gotten to know what the role is and who thrives in it. So it's a really interesting role because it's I call it like a semi-private practice. So it's meant to mirror the benefits that they would have of running their own practice with the benefits of having all your administrative support taken care of. You don't have the risk of recoupments and things like that. You have the consistency of knowing when you work, you're going to get paid, whether insurance pays us or not. So really there's the consultation aspect of having a team around supporting you. So giving them, but that requires a certain degree of autonomy because we provide so much flexibility. Communication is really, really important. So we've really kind of figured out and been able to see who might be the best fit for that role, because there's also other ways to provide the services we provide. Some people might be better off with a 9-to-5 where they have that accountability of clocking in, clocking out. You kind of have to be self-motivated. We're very supportive, but you have to reach out and ask. We're not micromanaging. So things like that.
But even the little things that you guys do, like how you don't 1099 all your contracts,
no,
right?
we
like all
don't.
your employees, like they're W-2 employees.
They are W-2 employees, and that was a big, probably one of the more stressful aspects of being a employer. But we made that shift probably about 2 or 3 years ago.
Brought on a good benefit firm.
We did. We brought on a great benefit firm. Highly recommend. So even before we needed benefits, that's what I was just telling him, is that because I think one of the things I've seen in our field is people see what other people are doing and all of a sudden offer 10,000 benefits. And like I said, Christian got to know our practice, and we're a bunch of moms, many of whom had benefits from, I'm not competing with TRICARE in terms of benefits. So getting those things in place and all the compliance pieces and things like that. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Is there a moment that sticks out in the past 7 years is like, man, this was a big win, a big success? And how do you also define success for yourself and also your employees? There's a lot of questions.
That is a lot of questions. So I don't know. In terms of big wins, that is tough. So I think maybe this is a therapist answer, but I needed to have just objective measures of success, because to me, success is a feeling. The way my mind works, I don't ever have that feeling because I see the next thing. And I think one of the things that has helped me is I'm not afraid of competition or, people doing things better than I am. I love that, and I'm invigorated by it. I think maybe it comes from when I grew up around just really, really smart, successful people who I will never reach. And so it's like someone says, read a business book. I'm like going for like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. Like I'm not going for like the guy that's just ahead of me. I just see, and I just know I'm not going to reach that. And so I don't ever feel successful because I just always see the next thing and how much farther it could be. But I have peace in that. But in terms of actual success, that's where EOS, we have rocks, we have our quarterly goals, and we have been 80% successful in meeting our objectives. And so to me, I'm awesome. Okay, even if I don't feel successful, because I never will, that is success as for our team. And that's another thing, giving the team that opportunity to feel successful, because our field can feel very nebulous. I mean, they're really like, we're not going to cure anxiety. We're not going to cure grief. We're not going to cure. And so it can be very hard to feel like you've accomplished anything. And so trying to figure out ways to help the team feel like they've been successful.
I'd say accountability in that.
Yes, exactly. Because it does feel good to hit goals.
Yeah, it does. And the quarter, like the US model is so interesting. Like the quarter is just long enough to where it's like you can actually make some impact.
Yes.
But it's just short enough to where you can obviously like make changes.
Exactly.
As far as like, you don't have to do this all year. You can just, which has been interesting. Because 90 days
it goes so fast. By. And that's the other thing that it shows you. How
quickly.
I did
nothing.
Yes. You start seeing, you're looking and you go, oh my gosh, it's almost the end of the quarter again. How did that happen?
It's amazing.
But have some objective measurements is so helpful.
I'm curious too, just like, I mean, the mental health space is just, there's such a need right now, it feels like, especially in everything that's happened over the past 5-10 years. I mean, COVID and everything that went through COVID and post-COVID and all that kind of stuff. And you just see it in kids and in teens and young adults. And I mean, heck, I'll talk for myself. It's really a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, depression at times, things like that. So it's a lot. And your employees, your therapists are hearing that constantly. So my question is, what are you doing to help your employees, your therapists? I mean, that must be, I would imagine, just such a weight, to be a therapist. So how are you looking out for their mental health?
Yeah, and that's hard because it's one of those things, that's an area where I feel like I can never do enough. I don't know. And one thing that I will say that is the best thing that we try to offer is just that flexibility, because every person is different. And every time I've seen, like, I'll have 10,000 ideas of, oh, we can offer this day, mental health day, we can do this, we can do that. But really how everybody copes or what would be a gift to one person is torture to somebody else. And so it's like, even we were talking about, what are you doing for your 10 years? Like, a company party, some people would love that. Yeah. Other people would be like, this is Mando fun is what they called it in the Marine Corps, like not Mando fun. Yeah. And so it's so hard to figure out, and you do surveys of what do people want. And so we have June benefits as one of the things we offer, which is completely flexible to say, for one person, maybe it's going to the gym. If I offer a gym benefit, then is someone else going to feel like a loser if they don't want to go to the gym? It's like, Meghan doesn't mean you have to go to the gym, So trying to just offer that flexibility as much as we can and keep work in its place so that they can find relief and peace in whatever way makes sense to them. I'd say one of the hardest parts of it is our field burnout is obviously a huge deal, but there's also nothing that generates revenue besides billable hours with clients. Right. And so that's been kind of a nut I've just been trying to crack of, we'll have people that obviously they need to make a certain living and we want them to make a certain living, but the only way that they can do that is to do counseling. And and so trying to figure out if there's other kind of creative ways that we can leverage the growth of the business to provide them other opportunities, whether it's through supervision or doing trainings or just trying to figure out how we can diversify the income possibilities for them. It's been kind of a tough one. But Christian knows, our full-time benefits eligible employees, it's usually around 20 sessions a week, which is not a lot, but also it's hard to do a lot more. And then especially if you have, people at home, and I'm the worst of it. My husband will attest that there have been times where I've told him to book a session because I'm out of empathy. It's like, use it all up.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's tough.
Yeah. Out of your 65 employees, how many are not doing billable hours?
I would say we have, let's see, really about 10 or so between admin staff and so billing, and then client care coordinators are big. They're really important to our team. The therapeutic match is so critical. So that's, I would say, something we do differently. And we've actually had a tech gadget built. It's called the Match Gadget to help our team make those great matches, because research shows that about 80% of or more of the clinical effectiveness is the fit between the therapist and the client. Wow. So making great matches is
innovation.
Yeah. I love it. Yes.
Wow.
So,
question I have for you, and it's something I feel like so many CEOs, business owners struggle with. How do you approach the long-term, planning, execution on the business tasks? Like, here's our long-term vision with like the day-to-day. And it's probably a little different now that you have kind of a defined, I'm the visionary, Chelsea's the integrator, right? But curious how you approach that.
Yeah, I mean, it was not happening until I had a
on
Chelsea.
The business stuff?
And so I kind of feel like I'm cheating because, having a really, really strong leadership team, Chelsea and Lauren, that has freed me to actually even conceptualize the future, which I feel like I owe the employees to know a little bit about what are we doing. I think the other hard thing about it that I was not prepared for as a business owner is how enmeshed the long-term vision of a company, like how do you separate that from your personal life and your goals? Whereas I feel like if you're not the owner, you kind of, it's your job and that's very clear. But so yeah, I think that's been just a kind of a challenge as well. But I think having that clear differentiation of having someone to handle the day-to-day it really helps. I know EOS talks about clarity breaks. I 100% stink at them. I do not do them, but I think that would be very helpful. So that would be another thing, would be to kind of set aside time on your calendar to actually do that.
How do you separate the vision from the company and yourself then?
It's really tough. I think I'm really getting excited about having something that can outlast me and can live without me. And I had sort of a benefit in a weird way of, because my husband was military, in my mind, I thought there's a chance I could be moved at some point. And that was from the minute it started. So we started paperless. I really don't want to be essential for the success of the business. And so that I think has really helped as well. And then I think good financial planning. And that's something that, because it's tempting. I mean, you reinvest a lot into the business, but you have to,
fingers crossed it grows.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So
so you started 8 years ago.
Yes.
That was a different Meghan back then.
Yes.
For sure. So one of my favorite questions to ask people is, you know what you know today.
Yeah.
But you can talk to yourself 8 years ago and you can give them, like, let's just say 2 to 3 pieces of advice.
Yeah.
Right? But you only have like 5 minutes with them. What are you telling Meghan 8 years ago?
I think I would have, if I actually knew what I know now, I think
you know everything you know today.
I think I would have bet more on myself. I grew very, very conservatively. I think I would have purchased some of our buildings rather than entering into long leases. So I think that would have been a bet more, and that would have, I think, and also hired help sooner, so that I could have grown more like earlier, I think, in a more systematic way, because to me, I didn't mind grinding, but there are things that I'm not good at, namely organization and paying attention to details. And so had I hired someone who is good at organization and paying attention to details sooner, I think it would have been a lot easier to document systems and processes when there were fewer and things like that. So
yeah, good stuff.
That's a great question.
Yes.
If I can ask a little bit deeper on that, what do you think kept you from betting more on yourself?
I think just, and some of it was just the need at the time. I mean, my husband was back in school and we had 3.5 children, working our way up. And so I think I was just being very, very conservative, and rightly so. I think with finances, and so
Totally.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's tough.
We were very committed to not having our children. We're like, we'll eat rice and beans, but they're going to the school I want them to go to.
Fair
and
enough.
so we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
So that was how it
Rice
rolled.
and beans, but they're going to go to this.
They're going. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we got some fun questions.
Yeah, we
can
do.
go.
I want to ask one more business
Go for it.
question. Then let's go. Let's go to a couple fun ones. Leadership, obviously, is kind of what this podcast is about. Mm-hmm. You've recently created, a leadership team, and obviously EOS. And how do you create like people and employees that own what they do and have leadership in what they do? How do you set those employees up for success?
So, I mean, I feel a little spoiled. I've just found the right people because the right people just innately have that in them. And I don't think that you can motivate into people. Like, there's no amount of money, there's no amount of anything, I think, that will create just this innate sense of accountability and responsibility. And so that was, and honestly, I feel like they have done it in spite of me. I'm not the best at outlining my expectations. And so that's something I'm working on. Clarity, telling people what I want. It's not a natural thing for me to do. And so I think it would have helped them a lot if I'd been more clear and said, this is what I need. But they just were the people that have that degree of just care. And so I think finding the right people is really key. And that is not just our leadership team. I would say that about across the board, from our billers, even our amazing person who checks benefits in the Philippines. I mean, she just has a care about her job and doing it well that is not taught.
Right.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Find the right people.
Yeah.
Right people.
Yeah, that's hard though.
It is. Yeah. It is very hard. And you probably kiss a few frogs in the meantime, but and I guess trying to emulate what you want to see. So being clear about those values and
the core values and where you're going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
Couple fun questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you weren't doing this, you weren't running a counseling center, doing all this, what would you be doing, Meghan?
What would I want? I mean, I really wanted to be
PTO.
I really want yes, which I have done that as well. So, I mean, I would probably be running a lot of volunteer organizations. I really would love to maybe I'd own a batting cage. I don't know.
That'd be fun.
I thought so. But or maybe my that you have those moments where you're like, this is my sweet spot. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. It was as a tour guide at WNL. So I think maybe I'd work in admissions at a college.
Yeah.
Yes, I love college tours with an awkward passion. You
got the energy, the enthusiasm. You're
I loved
perfect.
it. I mean, walking backwards, loved it.
Backwards,
loved it.
Yeah, like talking to the parents.
Yes.
Too.
Talking to parents. Yeah. I mean, it was great.
I bet you convinced some people to go to WNL.
I was going to say.
I mean, I'd like to think so, and maybe they'd like to give me a tuition rebate on my future children.
I worked there for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Yeah.
What is your big podcast person? What is like a favorite? It can be podcast or book or something that you've listened to or read in the last. Let's do a criteria in this year, 2025, that has kind of helped shape your leadership style or business or.
Oh gosh, there are so many good ones.
Besides Richmond Leadership Lab.
I mean, it is a favorite. I'm not going to lie, but. So definitely been into Chris Voss lately. So some of the negotiations. He was at
the Virginia
Council,
right?
And that was part of what made me want to join because I was like, I get to see him live in the flesh. That's so cool. I see it at the Hoberman Lab. So it's a lot of neuroscience kind of reached in there. So that's a big one. And then all the EOS, traction, I read it over and over. Good to Great is another one that's been
Jim Collins,
great.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
So when you're doing EOS, are they just having you read the book every day? Just to try? Yeah.
No, that would be good though. So
yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, well, good stuff.
That's
great. A couple final pieces of the podcast. One of them is we just want to say thank you for being here. So we're going to donate $100 on your behalf to your favorite nonprofit. And so if you could take a second, think about who you would like a nonprofit shout out to go to, and also a small donation.
All right. Well, this one's kind of fresh. So Ashley's Hope for Recovery is a brand new nonprofit, and I will actually be at the walk if anyone's in Williamsburg next week. But she was someone in recovery from an eating disorder who sadly was killed in a freak accident while she was in recovery, and her family has created a foundation to give money to other families to support them in helping people in recovery. So that would be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And you're doing a walk next weekend?
Yes, next weekend.
Exciting.
So in Williamsburg. So
that's great.
Raise some money.
Yeah. So, Meghan, how can people connect with you or Abundant Life Counseling and things like that? How can they get in touch with you?
The website is the greatest way to get in touch, www.abundantlifepartners.com. You can see our match tool live in there. And really the best way, if someone's interested in inquiring, I always tell them is to just fill out a form on the website, because that allows our amazing matchmakers to go through and see the insurance and see the specialties, see who's available, and make great matches. So
that's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah. I think one final question.
Yes.
Is this is the last question we have for every guest on the show. And it's from the Virginia Council of CEOs.
Great
Scott gave us this question. Yep, which is timely. And the question is, as a CEO, it can be lonely at the top. How do you deal with that struggle?
So, join the Virginia Council of CEOs. Good job, Scott. Great question. So definitely having peers, and to me, having peers in other, not in our field, has really helped. I would also say I don't always feel lonely. I think a great leadership team, but also just being real with your team. I am probably too tired to carry a persona. And so I just kind of am what I am, especially in Williamsburg. It's a small town. And so I see my people all over the place. And so I kind of just let them in. And so I think that really helps, is not feeling this need to have this like veil, and having a little more transparency with the team and letting them know what you're working on, what you're thinking about. Because those were the hardest times, when I was like really working and thinking about things that I felt like they had no idea. Like, what does Meghan do all day? So
right. She just
kind
sits
of,
there.
She just sits there. She just drives for field trips, which I do. But, that's all she does.
15-person band, yeah.
So,
They're 8%, right?
Yeah. So
That's great.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we've really enjoyed it.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you
great.
for being on the show and making the trip. And
It's always good to see you.
yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Any last things?
No, thank you, Meghan. This has been great. Yeah, appreciate all that you do and things like that. So, especially the space that you're in. So, thank you for that. Yeah.
Thanks for your support.
Absolutely.
Thank you.